really for me, where my gender was most pronounced was not among my American teammates or other folks on the base. It was when I was out in the Afghan public because it was such a conservative area. We always wore headscarves, the women on my team, when we were out at meetings as a sign of cultural respect. It's a very conservative province. Most women wore burqas, so we covered our hair out of respect. And it was very interesting being a woman who's an American officer. Didn't necessarily come into play in my interactions with the locals, but just being part of the U.S. military came with a degree of power and prestige. So when most people met with our team, they were excited because we brought power and we brought money. A lot of money flowed into that province from the PRT. So I was part of that. And when the men, by and large, we interacted with men, they were the ones brokering the power in Afghanistan. And they would come up and kind of greet our receiving line of people. And I had many occasions where men would come up, they'd shake the soldier's hand next to me and then look at me and it would be like, whoa, you're a woman. And it was like this clear moment of, okay, what do I do now? And some of them would like sort of like shake my hand and then move on. Some of them would just skip right over me. And then some were like, oh, a woman. And it was just like this uncomfortable, like I was a tourist attraction. The women on my team ended up on the Afghanistan news a lot, even if we had really nothing to do with what was going on in a meeting. The cameras would focus on us. So it was this spotlight in a lot of ways that was uncomfortable and could be wielded as a powerful tool. If I needed attention, I commanded it automatically by being a woman, but I also couldn't turn that spotlight off if I wanted to.
Now you said you had your head covered with a scarf. Did the male soldiers take their helmets off?
They did, yes. Yeah, men didn't have those types of expectations. Women, it's part of the Afghan culture, the Muslim culture,
Right.
is to cover their hair. So sometimes women would just be in headscarves. Often they'd be in the full burqas. So as women with the PRT, when we took our helmets off, we would put a headscarf on to cover our hair.
So it wasn't, so I was, it wasn't a thing where the guys keep their helmets on, but you have to take your helmet off to put on the scarf. I'm just thinking, if the guys still have their helmets on, but you don't, that you're obviously in a more vulnerable position, but did they take their helmets off in those contexts?
Yes, they took theirs off as well.
Oh, I see. You're looking at these women through, this little thing in the burqas. Did you ever have a sense of, you've described the reaction to you from men. Did you ever get a sense of responses to you from women?
I had a couple experiences where I got to speak directly with women, and that was honestly my favorite part of the deployment was interacting with the women. Mostly 98% of the time, I was just meeting with men because of the patriarchal society and a lot of cultural things at play. It was men who are in positions of power, and I, by virtue of being a woman, had an opportunity to kind of sit in on a couple programs that were designed specifically for Afghan women. One of them was a civics training course where the PRT supported this classroom engagement where women would learn about the Afghan constitution and women's and children's rights and rule of law, and these lessons that were designed around knowledge and self-advocacy and advocacy for their families that weren't included in the formal Afghan education system. So I got to sit in on that with a couple PRT members who were also female. And that was a space where women weren't wearing their burqas. They just had headscarves on. So we were sitting there, women among women, and had a chance to talk a little bit. I am not good with languages, and my Pashto was very limited, largely to like, stop, put your hands up, which didn't facilitate the kind of discussion I wanted to have in those moments. So I worked through an interpreter. But even just the presence of being a woman among women, it was a very different dynamic than with men. It didn't feel like there was power brokering going on. It didn't feel like, you know, men had certain expectations of me, and women were more just like enjoying the company and genuinely seemed appreciative of us being there and acknowledging that, you know, this is no small thing to leave your family and come to another country. And they actually asked very pointed questions about that, like, why do you do this? And, you know, why are you here with us? And one of the women on my team shared, you know, something to the effect of like, you know, women are women everywhere, and we all want a better future for our children. So that's why we're here. And seeing the understanding that really, you know, stretched across language barriers and across cultures, and just these women smiling and clearly enjoying each other's company in this more vulnerable space was really amazing to witness, and unfortunately not something that happened a lot. The girls were actually born right before the withdrawal of US forces from Afghanistan. And so I was, you know, sitting there nursing two babies, completely exhausted and delirious, and following this heart-wrenching news about like mothers literally giving their children to American service members because they just wanted them out of that environment. You know, so many feelings that a lot of Afghanistan veterans had through the course of the withdrawal about, you know, what did my service mean, and all of these questions.